This episode of the Miami Tech Pod is brought to you by Zendesk. If you're a startup founder, you know that every single customer counts. So how do you ensure you're building lasting relationships with your customers and keeping them happy? Well, with Zendesk. Zendesk gives you the tools to deliver a better experience for your customers and connects you with a host of resources to help you grow strategically as you scale. Want to give it a try? Zendesk is currently offering Miami Tech startups 6 months of their software for free. Learn more by visiting the link in our show notes to take advantage of this offer and get started. Hi, welcome back, everyone. This is Maria with the Miami Tech Pod. I'm joined today by my wonderful co-host, Brian Breslin, and our special guest, Bianca Padilla of Carewell. Welcome to the Miami Tech Pod, Bianca.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This has been many months in the making, and so many stories between that about, I feel like we, cross paths in many ways that we were just discussing before we started to hit record. So we're really excited to have you share your story with our audience. So first off, can you tell us a little bit about kind of yourself? Where you originally from, and kind of the start of your career?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Miami, Cuban background, so very traditional. Ended up going away to school. I went to NYU in New York, studied business and economics, and originally thought I was going to go into investment banking, private equity. That really, since I was a kid, was an entrepreneur. Like the kid who was selling like candy out of the inside of my school jacket, just always starting little businesses. Like anyone you speak to will tell you a story of something I've done. And so I went into IB and PE thinking, I'm going to learn how to run a business. First couple internships spent in New York wasn't exactly the case. Like it was more finance focused and not exactly operational. And so I started another business in college and ended up failing. But during that was really good experience because I realized very quickly, no tech skills. I'd done a little bit of coding before, so I kind of knew, how to write HTML, and I was a nerd, but I didn't know how to run like a tech team, and that's one of the reasons why I could not get like our app off the ground. So I ended up not taking the job in finance. I ended up moving back home, going to WinCode, and learning how to code. And then I got my first job at Live Ninja with Emilio and all the guys there, right? So very small world. That's like a great team. My cousin ended up working for them many years later now at their latest startup at Cryptoys. And so had a great experience there. At my first week working there, I ended up going on a first date with John, who's my co-founder now. It was like a blind date almost. Like I knew him from family and friends that I'd gone to school with in high school. And he told me about this pitch competition he'd won for adult diaper subscription service. And he's like, I was a little bit nervous to bring it up to you because it's so unsexy. And of course, me loving ideas and business, I was like, that's the sexiest thing I've ever heard, but unfortunately, my grandmother had actually just come home from a rehab center. She had a big surgery that left her pretty much immobile. So we were just going through becoming family caregivers for the first time. Like I said, I'm Cuban. And so it's very normal that your grandparents live with you. You live in a multi-generational household. It's a household just of women. So even more, crazy. And so that's kind of how I grew up, and full circle, multi-generational household, meeting my husband at the same time and really finding a business idea that was a massive market, $100 billion opportunity. And also the ability to build something in a space that is really underserved and where you can do a lot of good. And that was, that always adds an extra element of care and love to what you do. And so that was really the origins of Carewell, was really Miami for me.
So how did you end up in Charlotte, starting the company there?
Yes. So I actually started the company in Florida.
Oh, okay.
We started it in my original apartment. We ended up moving to John's parents' home because we, at that point, had quit our jobs and was literally doing it out of the garage. So we were living in the garage and we're also shipping things out of the garage. So true, like, startup story. And then, you get tired of living in a garage. And it's hot in Miami.
Yeah.
We had a little mini split, so we were fine. But we wanted our own space. And Miami was just not affordable for us to do that, living off we were living off $0. It was just savings, right? And we put everything that we had, sold our car, everything, to start the business. Like John was driving for Uber, et cetera. And so we were like, okay, we can't live in Miami. Where can we live that's still a drive home, and that has a lower cost of living, but still feels like a community? So we literally looked at a map and we're like, okay, Charlotte, North Carolina looks like a nice place. Let's go check it out. And so we went and ended up starting continuing to bootstrap the business out of Charlotte, North Carolina until recently. And so then the pandemic hit, we went remote. And from that point forward, it was just pretty much we hired all over the country. And then most recently, we moved the team back to Florida, which is fun to be home. The majority of people
Back to the garage.
No, not to the back. We have our own apartment now.
It's a much bigger garage now.
It's a much bigger garage.
Yeah.
We still have a ton of diapers everywhere.
Too many splits now. Yeah.
And no, but the majority of the team is actually all in Florida, which is just insane because we ended up leaving thinking we had to hire a team abroad, through the rest of the US. And then we come back home because everybody's here. Chewy was based out of Florida, and all of our most recent hires were the former, leadership team essentially at Chewy. And so it just ended up being, again, like back home to Miami is where the origins are and where we end up hiring people. And every time we're here, things are going really well. So we're like, we gotta make sure we stay here this time. So we're here for good.
I mean, it makes a lot.
So just to get some context about, can you tell our listeners a little bit about Carewell, the mission? And
Yeah, it's a good point. So Carewell is a specialty e-commerce company. We specialize in helping caregivers and people who are aging or disabled or sick, the products that they need to care for their loved one at home, where the majority of care is actually being given. So the massive demographic shift, where there's older people every day. Boomers are all going to be over the age of 65 by 2030. And there really isn't a place where you can go and get advice and guidance except for Carewell. And that's really what we specialize in. So we've got 24/7 round the clock care of a care specialist that you can speak to, get that advice and guidance that you need to understand what products even exist to care for your loved one, how to use those products at home settings. And we provide super competitive pricing. So we price match every single day to our biggest competitors. And everything's delivered within 1 to 2 days. So super fast and free shipping.
So yeah, it definitely makes sense that parallels with Chewy and how that experience could be really helpful to you.
So you guys are serving the elderly crowd, right? Is there a moniker or something like that for this? What this category?
ElderTech.
Is it ElderTech, SilverTech? What is this?
It's a combination. We always say it's e-commerce first, right? Because that is what we do.
Yeah.
But it specializes in it's really like health and wellness, because the majority of people who need these products do tend to be older. But it's also people who are dealing with cancer. It's people who are dealing with or caring for children with disabilities like autism or cerebral palsy. So it's finding all of these specialty products. It's premium, high quality products that you can't really find in stores unless you go to a durable medical equipment store, which if you go to them, it's like a blast from the past. It's like 80s, super high pricing, very limited assortment, or a combination of like other online sources. And so you got to find all these products randomly in different places. We sell like incontinence products. So think adult diapers and catheters and things like that, to nutritional shakes like Boost and Glucerna and diabetic products, to walkers, wheelchairs, wound care, feeding tubes, etc. So these are all products that most people have never bought. Most people don't know exist. Most people don't know how to use. There's 53 million caregivers in the US. So it's about 20% of the population who's providing care every day for loved ones and have to buy these products and have to use them. And that's a scary thing. So you don't want to do it incorrectly. You can cause more damage. So having that personal relationship with a company that can help guide you and advise you is an emotional relief. And then bringing prices and the super fast shipping brings that like level of convenience and consistency, as well as being, very budget friendly.
So my brother-in-law is in the wound care supply business, and so I've heard all these nightmare stories about billing Medicare and
Yeah, we
insurance and all
don't
this
do
stuff.
any insurance because it's such a nightmare.
Yeah.
So many people end up coming to us because they can't get their products covered, or they can't get their products on time because the billing and the insurance takes forever,
Right.
or the quality of the product that the insurers will cover is just so bad that they just don't want to use it, or it doesn't work, right? And so we purposely avoided the reimbursement space because there's also such a lack of innovation that can happen when someone else is paying for stuff versus when the consumer is in control. And so one of the things that we've recently launched is our own private label product, and we've got more products in the work because fundamentally I believe that, and we know, right, with the manufacturers, that there is so much innovation in this market that's yet to come. If you look at the baby market and all the products and all the innovation we've had, that same type of thinking needs to happen in this category. When you look at the walkers and wheelchairs and even the adult diapers, the quality, the look, the feel is just horrible. Like, you don't want to use it. You don't want to age. You don't feel confident using it, so you don't. And then people fall and then they end up in the hospital or they pass away. And so, one of the things is it's not just an e-commerce company. It's really helping drive innovation, drive innovative products to market to help people age better or live better with, illness for longer in their own homes.
That's really interesting. So now I'm still stuck on the origin story because it sounds like Jonathan told you about these diapers. You were like, I see a huge business, but what made, and especially because, with your grandmother coming home, but what was his deal? Well, how did he end up?
Yeah, that's a good question. So apparently the business, the pitch idea was the purpose was like a subscription service. So they had to come up with a product that was a subscription service. And I believe it was Tyler who had just gotten back from Japan. And he had heard a stat that was like there are more adult diapers being sold than baby diapers in Japan. And the US is trending in that direction. And so that's when they teamed up to say, okay, let's pitch that idea in this pitch idea. And they won. So John was just telling me like, hey, I won this business competition. And I was like, that's a great idea. And I understand it because I'm going through it now. We need these products. They're super embarrassing to find in stores. I can't find really like high quality stuff. They don't fit, like they're huge. Adult diapers they're massive products and you got to buy a lot of them. And so I was like, this just makes a ton of sense. It's the same model as Chewy, right? Where it's like 40 pounds of dog food and it's really convenient to go to the store and pick it up, except for this is inconvenient and it's embarrassing. And you don't even have a store like a Petco or a PetSmart to go to. Like, you don't have it. So I thought it was, even bigger of a potential idea.
So you guys are now doing like your own private label stuff. Like, that's gotta be a huge undertaking and learning curve, right? Like, what are some of the things that shocked you or surprised you going down that path?
Yeah. I mean, so the first thing that we've learned in starting a company is get people who've done the thing you want to do already. So I mentioned earlier, we hired a lot of the early leadership team at Chewy. One of those was the VP of private label and global sourcing. His name's Kevin. He launched the Frisco brand at Chewy, which is now, hundreds and hundreds of $1 million large, all 5-star products. So having the right person in seat makes a big difference because there are so many things that can go wrong, but he's already gone through them. And so we started by talking to the manufacturers we work with today, and he started doing his methods of how to source products, and immediately came up with a list of, hey, who exists, who can manufacture these products. And then from there, we start literally just going to the manufacturing plant. So we've been probably every manufacturing plant for incontinence products in the US at this point. I think we're missing like 2 or 3. And that's because they don't do private label. And really just learning about what do the machines do? What about the machines can we configure to make a product that's better? What makes products better than others? And really getting to the nitty gritty. We also like look at price points in the market and say, hey, what are our top selling products? How would we break this out? What are the product margins we need to hit to grow and scale this brand? That when we think of it as a Kirkland, right? Like Kirkland brand, like people go because it's a great value price point, number one, with a great quality product. And that's what we want to bring to market, right? Is value price point with a great quality product. And so we start at price point and we work our way backwards. What's the best quality product that we can come out with at these certain price points? And then we start going through and deciding, which product fits these needs at these different price points, and then how do we get them to market, and then how do we market those products, and then we've got a marketing team and a brand creative team that does that. So it's kind of like the process, and I think that what we've learned that was the most challenging part is that because of the reimbursement space that we were talking about earlier, it's driving innovation in the opposite direction than what I believe we need to go in, because it's so price point driven that the quality of the products continue to get worse and worse. And so the machines for adult diapers and pull-ups, for example, are getting thinner and thinner, and the quality of the sap or the material is they're cheapening it, right? They're using better quality sap, but they're putting less in it. So it's not working as well. And it's all because the big retailers are just competing on price point, or the innovation that is necessary to meet the price, or the price points that are necessary to meet the reimbursement rates are so low that you can't innovate. You can't create good quality products. So then what we're left with is the whole US has manufacturing facilities that are just creating low quality products in the US in the incontinence market. And I think we all see the need for more premium products, like in Europe and Asia. They've got much better products over there, but it's because the government pays higher rates or it's all out of pocket. So then people can afford better quality products, they can invest in better innovation, and it drives that market. And so people get better quality products at better price points. And so the healthcare system in the US is very misaligned, and those misalignments lead to low quality products at honestly higher price points, which is a shame. And so we're trying to change that and working with some manufacturers to literally tweak the machines in ways that really require capital investment, or work bringing machines to the US that can do the types of products that we need them to, which is not what not what we wanted to do because it's harder, but something that like we have to do, to bring better quality products to market at the price points that we need them at. And shipping diapers from overseas is super expensive. And with the market that's happening, or the election that's coming up, you don't know what's going to happen with tariffs, right? And so we're very cognizant of not trying to bring things overseas because you just don't know. But in certain cases, like, you're just going to have to.
And you mentioned kind of capital intensive. I know this February you just announced that you closed this $24.7 million Series B round, bringing your total to date raise of $54.7 million. I believe it was led by some local company, MBF Healthcare. So I'm, with my VC hat, I'm curious. It's not the easiest time to raise, especially a Series B and beyond. And you did that earlier this year. So what has your experience been fundraising, and how has that changed over the years?
Sure. So it's certainly changed for the worse. It's definitely a buyer's market. It's very hard to go out and fundraise right now. It's just people are sitting on cash and they're being super conservative, super conservative. So there are deals that are getting made, but they're, particular deals with like very, very great companies, or they're just not happening. Right. And so it's a scary time to honestly, to be a company, and you really got to focus on hitting your goals, being very aggressive with cash control, and cutting as much expenses, and really making sure you continue to grow, which is like the hardest thing to do at the same time. And so, we got really lucky that we were able to raise, just because it's the market environment is just not a good one. Interest rates are really high. It's when you're making 5% in a money market account and there's no risk, it's now that barrier to entry from an investment perspective is high. But we are lucky. The market that we're in continues to grow. We've got a lot of strong, tailwinds in our favor, which is great. We've got an incredible leadership team. And I'm not just saying that, like, these guys have done it before. There are very few people who have scaled an e-commerce business in the last 10 years to billions of dollars. And we've got the 15 people and below, from leadership to director level to manager positions, who've done that. And so, I think that the combination of our past growth just put us in a good position. And hopefully that'll put us in a good position for a Series C as long as we execute, right? And so that's where the team really comes in. But certainly very difficult market than 2020, 2021, where it was, seller's market. You could go out, raise money in 4 months, not easily, of course. Everyone is still doing diligence and stuff. But at this point, it takes 8 months, a year and a half. And so you really got to be getting out there early, making sure you got a very strong pitch, not wasting time, because a lot of people, like, they're sitting, nothing to do. So they'll waste a lot of time, and you got to be cognizant of that, but it's still possible. People with the right opportunity, with the right market, don't give up. That's one thing I told myself, is just don't give up. Don't give up. This is so important, and it was brutal. There was times where I cried. I was like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do it, but we got it done. And, now it's time to execute and get back out in the next couple of months, because that's how this works, and start prepping for the next round. Hopefully the next round should be our last round. So, so that's a good news.
It's really interesting thinking about, like, the value of owning that customer relationship for you guys, because boomers own something like 45% of all
Yep.
assets and wealth in our country, right? And so, like, the buying power of your audience is incredible, right? Even though, like, what you're selling them now might not be like what they consider, frivolous spending, but, like, having that relationship and being able to, like, cross market and refer trusted products and services and things like that across the board could open up huge opportunities for you guys long term beyond the pure e-commerce stuff,
Right. That's actually the vision, right?
Yeah.
It's like caregivers aren't, or it's not just caregivers that we care for. It's people who are caring for themselves.
Yeah.
So both parties are dealing with not just buying products. They're dealing with prescription medication. They're dealing with multiple, our customer base, 95% of them are using at least one medication per day, but on average are using 5.
Yeah.
So, just gives you that like, you need to speak to a pharmacist. Many times you just want to speak to, like, a nurse who can answer a quick question. Like,
Yeah.
hey, something's wrong with my diabetes medicine. What should I do?
Yeah.
And today it requires, like, going to an urgent care or waiting for your doctor a couple days to get back to you. And so I think that there's certainly a massive opportunity for us in the future to leverage that relationship, leverage that trust that we have with our audience and our community, to bring to them services like that, where you can talk to a nurse, where you can get your prescription medication in one place delivered to you, et cetera. It's remote patient monitoring and things like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sure as you sit there and you brainstorm and you think through, like, all the different opportunities, it sort of becomes almost overwhelming.
Yes.
The need, right? Like, and the gap in the market, like, I don't know. Like,
The hardest part for
yeah.
every single company in age tech, or the silver, or whatever we're calling it, is literally customer acquisition. It is so hard to find customers in this market because they're not your typical, like, person. It's a caregiver, or it's an older person, and maybe they need stuff and maybe they don't. And it's hard to build trust. And so
Yeah.
one of the things that's, like, unique is that we know who, typically, if you're buying an incontinence product or a catheter or wound care or a wheelchair, that you are in our demographic, right? That you need additional services that, in your home. And one thing that's you have to remember is that the vast majority of care is going to be happening in people's homes.
Yeah.
Not going to be happening in institutional care facilities or, like, in a nursing home. Like there's only 2 to 3 million senior beds in the country, and we're going to have 50, 60 million seniors, right? By the end of the decade. And so, all this is happening at home. All this is happening without supervision. And they need a trusted source. People can't get these customers, but we can, through the acute immediate need for a product. We're able to acquire a customer, build a relationship with them. And then, the hope is that we can use that and translate that trust into additional services that we recommend or offer ourselves in the future.
One of the interesting things that comes to mind is like, we have the benefit now of being able to see other countries that have the populations have aged faster than ours, like the Japans, Koreas, and, and so on, right? Where there wasn't as much of a sort of even distribution in population. And so seeing the solutions they're coming up with allows us to, sort of coast 10 years behind their wave, and so, yeah, I mean,
and that's where we see like a lot of the product innovation that like I get excited about. It's just not here, like nobody knows about it, and the reimbursement space messes with us. But it'll get there eventually, right? We need a Carewell. We need somebody to introduce these products. We need somebody to build the relationships between the manufacturers who can't reach the customers, and educate them on why, these brands are better and why you should spend a little bit more because you're going to get a better experience.
Like, you're a Miamian, right? And so the first thing that came to my mind when you're like, customer acquisition is hard, I was like, man, too bad Don Francisco's not around anymore. Like, Sala Gigante would have been like the premier place to like promote this, if
actually, you know what? I'm going to tell our TV, we have an in-house TV team. I'm actually going to tell them because that's all my grandmother does.
Yeah.
Watch it, so.
Yeah. I mean, he was like the original influencer.
Maybe Juan de Mercado. Is he still alive?
No, he passed away too.
Oh, yeah, darn.
There's still. I watch some of those when I go into my grandma's room. Yeah. I gotta figure out who's the new people who are promoting stuff.
I mean,
exactly. And we got a partner.
We're all out of date.
I think it's like YouTubers, like at least the Cuban Miami elderly, like they watch a lot of YouTube, which for better or for worse.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where a lot of conspiracy theories get disseminated. For worse, but yeah, I mean.
Well, Bianca, I'm curious because a question I get a lot, more so when I travel to other cities, is for some the perception that Miami is only a place for crypto entrepreneurs, and I try to dispel this and mention some of these other industries that we're really strong in, like fintech. I would be curious on your take on health tech in Miami. I mean, we have Carewell, we have folks like Papa that have done really well.
Care Cloud.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's a lot
Snap,
of health
tech.
Was Teladoc from Miami?
Teladoc
it was
like
one
Boca.
of the telehealth companies.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I can't remember which one now, but
ZocDoc? No.
One of them.
Yeah.
So what's the question?
What's your take on like is Miami a great place for health tech founders, and should that be one of our focus industries?
That's a good question. Yes, 100%. I'm actually surprised that people would say the opposite, because I actually think it's probably if not the best place to be. You have the most amount of seniors in Florida as a percentage of the population, and that's the vast majority of people who need healthcare. And so, just from a statistics perspective, like I used to go to like Leon and just sit there and just watch the older people and see what they do and see the relationship that they have with that brand, who like my grandmother's super loyal to, and like will not go there. And so,
you should just ride their like trolleys. Yeah.
Right. She takes it, and like she wants to take it, and like she loves it. And so like absolutely, I spent a ton of time. I actually forgot about that until now. Just literally in their lobby watching, the personal touch that they do at Leon is like pretty incredible, and something that we took ourselves into the company. And actually, John and I, before, like right when we started the company, it was super expensive. We had no money at the time, and we decided to go to the Disney Institute and learn. They have a course called Quality Service. How do they scale quality service? And it was incredible. I highly recommend it. It's kind of like the Ritz Carlton course, but we thought like the Disney one would be more appropriate for what we were doing. And healthcare is in like dire need of like better quality service, high touch personalization. Like we've really gotten away from that. Everyone's become like a ticket or a number. You're not even in control of paying, so you don't even know what things are costing you because of the way that, insurance is set up. So I think absolutely Florida is the place to be. Absolutely.
Well, what I love so much about your like story is all the Miami connections, and it just shows how the ecosystem
Yeah, exactly.
over
Like
the years.
I moved and had to come back, right? Because Miami is the place to be. Like we raised in the last round in Miami, like 10 million of the 27, which was, the rest of it was people taking their pro rata or their super pro rata. So that was like protected for them, came from Florida. So there is, and in the worst funding environment that in what the last 20 years, right? 30 years. I haven't even been around that long. So Florida is certainly on the up and up, whether people want to buy into it or not. Like that's fine. The people who believe like they're going to keep seeing it happen. I'm seeing it happen. And I was a doubter, right? I grew up in Miami. I grew up here during the financial crisis. So I saw everything like empty and dead. And I'm seeing like the complete opposite. Like it's really hard to stop a train. Like, and that's what I think Miami is just a train that's going to keep going harder and harder. And yeah, I just think other people, other cities, they're, maybe jealous. And
I believe we like to think of them as haters.
Yeah, they're haters. So it's okay. Let them hate.
Yeah. Well, like you mentioned Tyler, and for those of you on the podcast, Tyler is one of the co-founders of Novo, who we've also had on the podcast. Yeah. He had also left. Him and Michael moved back to Miami, so it's great to kind of welcome some of the folks that were here previously and I've now felt like, okay, now's the time to be back here. And
there's no
actually,
fun
fact, yeah. Fun fact is, years ago, we had a refresh event, and we invited Kelly Durkin to speak when she was at Chewy. She gave an incredible presentation, and we had a great fireside chat with her. So, and I saw that she's one of the hires that you brought on.
Yes,
VP
she
of
was
customer service,
I think the first non-founder employee at Chewy, and she scaled their customer service team from 0 agents to over 1,000. So again, like really strong leadership team we have, and we've been super lucky to get them on board, and building, the Chewy experience for a demographic that really, really deserves it. So we're super lucky to have Kelly. She's incredible.
Are we going to have the Carewell Mafia coming out of this?
Hopefully.
So Bianca, like, what are you excited about, the next 12 months, whether it can either be Carewell related or anything, I mean, I'm just curious what's taking up a lot of your mental bandwidth right now.
Oh, every week is a new
the
thing.
launch of private label, or
yeah, private label is certainly top priority for us. That's what all I've been saying all week is private label. So we've got a couple new lines coming out by the end of the year, and really working on growing the one that we have today. And so that's top of mind for us. And then I always say, like, it should be boring. We should be doing the same thing every day, better and better, and like no new ideas. So really, it's just the same thing. It's how do we work on getting customers better pricing? How do we make sure we get their packages with minimal interruption to their door within 1 to 2 days? It's how do we get the website better, faster, easier to shop? How do we make sure we answer the phones quicker and give better advice? And if we can do that over and over again every day, we do better. That's how we win. It's not by doing anything new. So that's what I'm focused on, is just daily execution, making sure the team knows what our highest priority items are, driving towards that. And then honestly, getting the manufacturers, that's always the hardest part, the manufacturers, the partners that we work with, the distributors that we work with, buying in to what it is that we're building and understanding what e-commerce is. You'd be surprised and shocked that so few people that we work with understand how e-commerce works and how we have to compete and how we have to position ourselves. And so we spend a lot of time educating them on that and getting their buy-in and educating, their leadership teams to support us in doing that. So that's where my main focus is now. And then soon, over the next couple of months, I'm back hitting the fundraising trail. So that'll be fun. Market hasn't turned yet, so not exciting. But we have a lot of positive stuff coming out, and so it's exciting to go out and show some of the results, some of the things that we've been working on, and keep growing, which is my favorite thing to do. So
Cool.
So any investors that want to preempt her round, give her a. How can they find you?
I
Send
mean,
an
you
email
can
to Carewell.
find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, Bianca at carewell.com. Yeah.
And then from the talent front, I'm curious, as talent's always a big topic about, in-person, remote, hybrid. How are you thinking about it? And what roles are you hiring for, in case there are any audience members that are interested?
That's a good point. So right now we're pretty much done with hiring. We've got like a full leadership team, which is great. But there's always a couple roles that are straggling right now. Engineering, we always need. So if you have a background in engineering, in particular e-commerce or supply chain or in healthcare, those are always, please apply. We need help always on the engineering front, data engineering as well. And let me think.
Are these remote roles or are they in South Florida?
Yeah, it's all remote.
Yeah.
We do prefer like East Coast. We do prefer like closer to Miami, but we're not going to, choose a better candidate just because, or we're not going to pass a better candidate just because they're not here.
Mm.
So it is fully remote. We do get together at least once a quarter. Our leadership team gets together once a month at least. And so it's important to be close is what we always say, because it's easier for everybody. And then other roles, I think we're pretty good. Like I said, like even the next few rounds where it's not going to grow the team much more than what we have today. It's really going to customer acquisition, and then making the overall, customer experience better, which is good. It's a good thing to be in.
So a few wrap-up questions. I wanted to go down more of the Miami angle. Given that you kind of had moved away, what was the thing that you missed the most about life in Miami when you were in Charlotte?
Definitely the ocean. I was like, I can't live in a place that doesn't have a big body of water that I can get into close. There's something about like, it makes me feel like I can breathe easier knowing that the ocean is really close. So I literally lived like blocks, like less than a block away from the ocean in Miami, because I just had to, and that was a big priority for me. That's number one. And number two is Cuban food. Like I love.
Say croquetas or
Yeah, fritas in particular. I go to El Mago de las Fritas.
No.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, as often as I get out there, it's my favorite, with a mango smoothie. In fact, I have a mango smoothie right here because I'm just obsessed. So.
And given you're from Miami, you got to rep. What high school did you go to?
Went to Gulliver. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually went to two high schools, but I went to Gulliver in 10th grade, and I went to a very small school called Dade Christian School for freshman year. Went to that school growing up. Yeah. It might not even exist anymore. I have no idea. It was like 80 kids maybe.
Oh, wow.
That's not that school that was on that podcast that you sent me, right, Maria?
What podcast?
Oh, there was like a murder of a nun at one of these schools.
No, we didn't have nuns. There was no nuns.
there was like this, like it's fascinating from a like pure chisme standpoint. Like there was some school out like in horse country, like in Kendall, that like one of the nuns was murdered, and it was a whole thing.
No. We didn't have nuns, and it wasn't in Kendall. So
okay.
But I have
zero recollection about that. Now I
Google it. I could have sworn Maria was the one who told me about this. Maybe it was my wife, but
I didn't think so.
But no, this was fascinating, Bianca. This is such a delight chatting with you. Hopefully, at some point, we'll break bread over cortaditos and some croquetas and stuff.
Oh yeah, we do every day. We
Yeah.
go to the gas station. My husband picks up little cortadita. So always. That's another thing we missed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not having to make it ourselves. It's better when someone else makes it.
So Bianca, how do you want, or what's the best way for our fans to follow you or keep up with what you're up to and Carewell's up to?
Yeah, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, to find advice, guidance, etc., on how to provide best care for your loved one. You can also give us a call. Our number is 855-855-1666. And that's the best way. You could call, text us. We speak English or Spanish. We're available 24/7. So, and you can visit us online at carewell.com.
I can only imagine how many people just call you because they need someone to talk to. But
yeah,
yeah,
that happens. We have no call times.
Yeah.
So we let it go, you know. And so if you just need to talk, you can call us too.
Cool. Well, Bianca, thank you so much for joining us on the MiamiTech Pod. This was awesome. Yeah, and I look forward to hearing the news of you're dominating the silver tech market or the boomer tech market or whatever it's being called. You can rebrand it if you want. Feel free to come up with new
It doesn't
monikers.
matter to me.
Yeah,
Just the domination part is what matters.
yeah. There we go. There we go. I love it. Love it. Love to hear that. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening today. And if you've gotten this far, subscribe, like, all that jazz. And we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.